Good to have you, Mr. Joseph Kabuleta.
Thank you.
So, for the very first time you're appearing on the screens of Spirit TV, who is Joseph Kabuleta?
Well, Joseph Kabuleta is so many things, but what should I say first? Perhaps more, I mean, relevant right now is a presidential aspirant.
So, do you think you are the chosen one, as people say?
I'll be the chosen one when I'm unveiled as the new president of this country. Right now, I'm one of those who are running.
In the first place, why presidential post? Why not any other political post?
Because that's where I ought to be, at the presidency. And that's where the vision that I have from this country can be accomplished. It cannot be accomplished at any other level of leadership.
Well, the church is so happy, and it's in shock as well, because in all positions you chose to be president. What are some of the highlights of the current perspective about the current regime and the change that you are trying to bring on board?
I don't need to talk about the current regime. So many people have lived, I mean, almost everybody has lived through it, so they know what the issues are. They do not need me to articulate them. What they need me to do perhaps is to tell them how we are going to change what there is, because obviously there is a need for change, and explain to them what we mean by my slogan, which is financial liberation, which is ensuring that everybody has an opportunity to benefit from the resources and there's so many things that God has blessed this country with, and not just, you know, some select few people. So the whole aspect of liberation is making sure that everybody feels a partaker in the decisions of this country, especially the economic turn of this country, and feeling that they can benefit personally, and in so doing the country benefits because the people benefit.
So as a watchman, like we know you as a watchman, do you think there was a significant transition from being a watchman to presidency, and don't you think that you might lose some of your congregation?
No, actually, I'm giving up a congregation of a few and getting a congregation of 42 million Ugandans. So I don't know how that is losing any of the congregation. I'm actually getting the entirety of the country as a congregation.
So how sure are you that your congregation will side with you in this process of running for presidency?
They don't have to side with me. They do not have to. I only have to know that I am pursuing something that I feel from my heart. And when I started the fellowship, I didn't ask anybody. Okay, so when I go for presidency, I do not ask by anybody. I mean anybody within them. I started it, then they came. So I do not need anybody's approval for this. You know, aside from, perhaps from the God. So that's it.
Well, you are no stranger to controversy and, of course, your sharp criticism to people in notable positions of influence, and the government itself. We've seen you quite a number of times opposing it. Don't you think that this will cost you and it will affect you in your run?
Why? How would criticism of a government that I am trying to unseat affect me? Well, it will affect me positively, that's for sure, because the government is extremely unpopular. Everybody knows that. And you stand a lot more to gain by standing out and speaking about the ills, which everybody sees, and nobody is happy, really. Not even the people who are within the government are happy. So I don't know how I stand to lose anything by doing that. As to the controversy thing, controversy is, you can't do anything of significance and you fear controversy. It is a part of life. It's a part of a life of somebody like me who feels that I wasn't born to analyze situations and tell people what they are. I was born to change them. Now there are people who are analyzers, so they will tell you what is wrong here and what is wrong, and then they go home and sit down and take a cup of coffee. No, I'm not that kind of person. Now when I see what is wrong, I move to change it. So anybody who thinks like that is going to have to be somebody who doesn't fear controversy. And thankfully, I do not fear controversy.
Okay, with the fear of controversy, won't this affect you? Because we've seen most of the people, most especially people who come to oppose the government, have been gotten with a lot of, like, they've been going through a lot of torture and misconduct. Don't you think you are afraid of this and the way they will handle you in these campaigns?
I am afraid of nothing. I'm afraid of nothing. Let me tell you, the scripture says that the righteous are as bold as a lion. It says actually the wicked flee when no one is pursuing them, but the righteous is as bold as a lion. I'm afraid of nothing. I've been through some of those torture things and what. There's nothing new, really. So, and I'm afraid of nothing. And the thing is, they have perpetuated themselves on this country through fear. They just do enough to instill fear, and everybody somehow goes somewhere and, you know, finds a safe space. So if we are going to have the benefit of a good government that cares about its people, we are going to have to cast away fear, which is the first thing that I decided I'm going to do. Actually, the one thing that I fear above everything else is fear. Because when I stand out to do something and I feel a sense of fear within me, then I know I have to do it to conquer fear. So there is nothing that I stand out to do that I will stop myself from doing if I know it's the right thing because I fear. That is not the way I live my life.
Mr. Kabuleta, you sound to be a much confident guy. Where do you pick your assurance and where do you get your confidence to being president of Uganda?
From the fact that I have a message that most Ugandans are going to have to embrace.
What message is that?
I've told you financial liberation, a message of making sure that the wealth of this country belongs to the people of this country in their entirety, not just a few of them, as it has been.
Don't you think that problems of Ugandans are more than financial problems?
Oh, man. Oh, my God. Start with finance and see how almost all the other problems will melt away. What are you going to tell me? Healthcare, schools, what? How does it help to have all those things when somebody doesn't have money? When you do not have, I mean, even a family without, a man without money is emasculated. You're not a man because you don't have a place to start. You have to first at least have some money. Now, I have been in a position where I have children looking at me. Now, if I didn't have food to give them, now what kind of a man am I? How can I be concerned about all the other problems when I do not have food to give my children? So it has to start with finance. And when finance is sorted, you've sorted a big chunk of all the problems. Then from there, we can build on to other things. But now we have to focus on one thing, which is the financial liberation of the people of this country.
So fast forward, you're into the election bid. Campaigns are starting off, and the president declares this to be scientific. Will this affect you as a new entrant? How are you going to manage to communicate to the masses and convince them that you are the right person?
No, we will. We've done that before. He's not the first person to come up with all sorts of laws to tie the hands of people who are, contesting for his seat. Because, all these dictators, it's like their mother is the same. What he did is what Dos Santos did in Angola, is what Bagbo did in Ivory Coast, and is what even Hassan. So you just have to study what is happening elsewhere, and you know what he's going to do. Now, the beauty with him being in power 35 years, there is nothing new that he can do. Nothing new. Everything comes out of the same playbook. So he's very predictable, just like any other 75-year-old. His jokes are the same and so on. There's nothing new. You are not going to sit listening to Museveni and expect anything new, nothing. So we know what to expect, you understand? So the whole idea of scientific elections and how he expects to manipulate them and what, all these things were foreseen. As soon as the COVID thing came in March, I was actually saying that, wow, if this thing had come 3 months or 4 months later, Museveni would have used it to cheat an election. I underestimated his desire to cheat that election because he's determined to push COVID until next year. Okay? He will push it 5 years if he has to. That's the kind of person he is. But that does not mean that he's invincible. He's far from invincible. Because people in his position only sustain themselves when they have a bare minimum of support from the population. He lost that long time ago. Now he's actually treading on very thin ice. Okay? Because even dictators have to appease a certain kind of people so that they have at least 30% of the population who genuinely support them. By my reckoning, I think he fell way below 10% long ago. So now that is, that's unsustainable. Even the cheating cannot help. I'll give you an example. If you are a lecturer and your relative sat and the pass mark is 50 and your brother or somebody got 48, you can cheat for him and he gets. But if he gets 7%, I mean, you can't cheat 7%. You can't take 7 to 50. Exactly. So now that's the situation we are in. He's going to do everything, but he will still not get the pass mark.
So, Mr. Kabuleta, yesterday the president addressed the nation, and I want to predict that maybe you are the one in that seat. What would you have said to Ugandans?
In the same situation, I would have released Ugandans to go and earn a living because they have been hampered for far too long over a sickness which in the world, I'm not talking about in Uganda, in the world has had a recovery rate of 99.6%. Okay? There are so many bigger problems that we face as a nation, and we've not closed down our economy because of them. So what he has done in the past 4 months has just been perhaps fitting into his overall plan of impoverishing Ugandans. And perhaps coronavirus is just an excuse for him to do that. But it was not called for. It has turned out to be the bad decision. But for the first 2 months, perhaps, the caution was necessary. But as soon as it became clear that it was not going to be the sort of sickness here that it has been elsewhere, and that there was a very fast recovery rate, in our case, there's not been any fatality. So as soon as that was evident, then it should have been cast away. Because I was seeing in some countries, and I'm talking about developed countries, where they say they lost as many as 200,000 people, not from COVID, but from the lockdown, because those people could not get in, to hospitals fast enough because of the lockdown. And I'm talking about developed countries where you can actually call an ambulance and it comes and finds you home. Okay. Now imagine how many more we've lost here because of the COVID. Because there's women who are, due and cannot go to hospital, who cannot have attendant care. There are people actually who are on ARVs who could not access them at the peak of the lockdown, and not taking that medicine for a short time completely deteriorated. So, and what for COVID, which 99.6% of the people get cured of.
But this is a matter of life and death.
There is the people I'm telling to you about people who have died. How have you people been brainwashed that you think there is only one cause of death? There are more than 30 people dying every day because of malaria. They were higher because of the lockdown, because people could not go and get chloroquine. I don't know. The last time I had malaria, that was the medicine. But people could not go and get medicine for malaria, and they are dying. So the only death you know about is COVID, which has killed 0.
But the lockdown was seen as one of those measures that would deter COVID-19.
And do you think it has?
To a certain extent.
So now that it has been opened, how fast have the cases gone up? How many people have died?
At least now we've seen an improvement in
how many people have died since the lockdown? So how many people have died since the lockdown?
None of them, and we just give an applause that yes, it has been handled with care.
Here is the thing. Uganda's response to COVID has been like somebody sitting and having a cup of tea, and then he sees people running very fast, then he jumps up and runs with them, not knowing why they are running. And then he reaches somewhere, and then he discovers he doesn't know why the people are running. He asks them, why are you running? And then he consoles himself by saying, maybe there was a problem, maybe if I hadn't run, I would have died. No, you were just confused. That's the whole response to, the whole coronavirus thing.
Lastly, as we wind up, Pastor Kabuleta, if you would change one thing in your life, what would it be and why?
Change one thing in my life. I can't think of anything. I'm happy with my life. I'm happy with my life.
Well, that is Pastor Joseph Kabuleta, a turned politician, and he is aspiring to be president of the nation, Uganda 2021. Whatever you've heard from him is what he is bringing on table at this very run that we are going into the 2021 election bid. Thank you so much for being a part of the Chit Chat. My name is Joseph El Shaddai, and of course you can follow the conversations on our different social media handles. That is Spirit TV on Facebook, Spirit TV UG on Instagram, and Spirit TV UG on Twitter as well. Keep it Spirit TV, because we are a place for you.